So you remember the other day, month and a half, 2 months ago, we were talking about Glencore and its other company, not that they're related, but Trafigura, big commodities trading companies and whatnot, and they're both kind of face down in the dirt, so to speak, in the world of stocks and whatnot. Just reading some Zero Hedge. Another hedge fund bites the dust. Trafigura shuts down its Flagship metals fund. 2 months ago, with everyone focusing on Glencore, we urge readers to forget Glencore. This is the real systemic risk among commodity traders, in which we profiled the other major independent commodity trader, Trafigura, specifically looking at the quite daunting $21.9 billion in disclosed debt, which suggests a debt/EBITDA of a staggering 10 times. Since then, the news flow out of Trafigura has been troubling, perhaps justifying why its bonds continue to yield somewhere north of 8%. And culminating last week with the announcement that Duncan Letchford, Chief Executive Officer of Trafigura's hedge fund, Galena Asset Management, is what? Leaving the company. You don't think he's jumping ship like they always do right before something bad's about to happen, do you? As Bloomberg, who first reported the high-profile departure last week, wrote, Letchford, who has served as a member of Trafigura's management board since August 2012, is leaving to pursue other interests. Adding that Letchford took over the role of Galena CEO in March 2014 from Jeremy Weir, who became CEO of Trafigura after co-founder Claude Dauphin was diagnosed with cancer. Letchford was the third senior executive to leave Trafigura in 6 months. If that's not the rats jumping ship, I don't know what is. And if this was any other company that didn't have anything to do with metals and commodities and whatnot, I wouldn't be quite as, not necessarily concerned, but I don't know that I would care to follow it as much as I do care to follow it. For that reason alone. You've got these rats jumping ship. You've got Glencore and Trafigura, both face down in the dirt. Company's about to implode. Which, by the way, Glencore made a deal with, I think, Silver Wheaton Company, I believe, that for like $900 million, Silver Wheaton would buy future supply of silver from Glencore for a whopping 20% of spot price. That's now locked in. It doesn't change. So I want to say it was somewhere around $3 or something. Something like $3 around there. $3 per ounce. Silver Wheaton got their silver supply from Glencore. Now, Silver Wheaton, I'm gonna just say this just to say it. If Glencore goes under by chance, and you've already given them the $900 million, ooh, you may be one of those quote-unquote unsecured creditors all of a sudden that you didn't realize you were. Just gonna throw that out there just in case it happens. So he's the third senior executive to leave in 6 months. His exit follows the resignation of Chief Financial Officer Pierre Laurenet, who left in September, and Simon Collins, the former head of metals, who departed in May. These are pretty important key positions in this company. If anybody was jumping ship who knew some insider information about the company, it would be these people. And while the storm clouds continue to build over Trafigura, we know now the fate of Galena and why its CEO, Letchford, departed the company in a hurry last week. According to a follow-up from Bloomberg, Trafigura has decided to close the Flagship Galena Metals Fund. the latest hedge fund victim of the rout in raw materials markets from oil to copper. In view of the difficult conditions prevailing on commodities markets, Galena Asset Management has decided to wind down the Galena's Metals Fund. Trafigura said in a statement on Monday, investors have been informed and trading positions are being unwound in an orderly manner. This is how Trafigura described the various strategies employed by the now defunct hedge fund. Liquid trading strategies. Most assets are managed in Galena's liquid trading strategies. These take long, short, directional, and strategic positions in metals and minerals. There are two main funds. The Galena Malachite Fund is a single client fund managed against an agreed benchmark. The fund has significantly outperformed its benchmark since inception. The Galena Metals Fund is the company's flagship fund. It has generated outstanding performance over more than a decade, with low volatility and a compound annual return of 9.21% to 30 September, or maybe they meant the right to 9.21% to September 30th, 2014. Credit strategies. Well, first of all, let's go back there. The Metals Fund is the company's flagship fund and has generated outstanding performance, but we're shutting it down. 3 high-level guys in the company, they're leaving this last one. He's in charge of the whole thing, whole fund. The whole thing is shutting down that piece. We're getting rid of it. Now, would you not sit back and say, well, hold on. Let me make sure I read that right. The fund has significantly outperformed its benchmark since its inception. The fund is the company's flagship fund. It has generated outstanding performance over more than a decade, with low volatility and a compound annual rate of 9.21%. And they're shutting it down all of a sudden. Oh, what's this one thing that keeps your whole entire company running really well? Oh, this is our such and such piece of the company. It's our flagship thing we had. It's outperformed its own benchmarks that we had in the beginning. It's phenomenal. Wow. Well, what do you think would happen if you ever had to shut that down? Oh, nothing? Better question, why would you ever want to shut it down? You've been doing this for a decade. That's 10 years. More than a decade, it said. Why are you shutting it down now? Why are you shutting it down now? Interesting times. Again, if this wasn't some big giant commodity company, and what else are commodities? Gold, silver, oil, energy, food, wheat, corn, etc. But most importantly, gold, silver, and you're shutting down this racehorse of yours. And people who work inside your company are quote unquote jumping ship. Now, if one of these companies, or both, Glencore, Trafigura, one or the other, or both, could you imagine, I guess where I'm going with this is, can you imagine if Webbot soon becomes a hit and the fact that silver, precious metals skyrocket, and you find out, oh, well, all these little coincidences, these metals companies and Trafigura and Glencore and shutting this down, and all of a sudden that coincides with precious metals skyrocketing. Because I'm trying to find what could this event be that causes silver to explode, assuming the Webbot's right in the first place. And my thoughts was, well, though, they're running out of silver and gold in the commodities market, the COMEX, run by the CME group out of Chicago, and boy, oh boy, could they use a terror attack to shut that place down, just like they could use one on 9/11 to bring Building 7 down to hide all of their investigative material on fraudster banker activity that's now gone because the building collapsed. Notice I did say World Trade Center 7, not 1 and 2 Twin Towers. Yeah. You may want to take a look at that one on YouTube if you've never heard of that before. World Trade Center 7, or WTC 7. And see what you find on that if you're not up to date on that whole thing. The bankers always cover their tracks by destroying the evidence. So that's why it's my firm belief Chicago will be the next terror attack, should one occur, and you could bet your life it will be the CME group, which is in the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, who controls that whole entire commodity market. And just a little quick recap, I've already said to watch Chicago simply because of that reason. And then we have breaking news, Rahm Emanuel, Obama's right-hand man, who left the administration to go become mayor of Chicago somehow, and then joined the race late, so it was already too late, but somehow they changed the rule and let him in. Yeah, come on in. And then he won. Imagine that. I bet it was the voters that voted him in, and the voting machines that didn't rig the votes. But anyways, he comes out. We had a little agreement here with the city council, and we've decided to open the doors to the Syrian refugees and make this a sanctuary city. You don't say. And then 2 days later, I believe it was, there's a white van driving around Chicago with 4 Middle Eastern men saying, "We are ISIS and we are here to kill you." But the cops, citizens, ran to the police to tell them what they had just seen, but the police were unable to catch the suspected van in time, and it sped off. How much do you want to bet that that never even happened, and it was just a fake news story? Nonsense, propaganda, so that when they do attack Chicago, they'll be able to say, "Oh, you remember the white van? I guess they made true in their promise." And you remember when Rahm Emanuel let these immigrants into the sanctuary city? Oh, I bet some of the bad guys snuck through. Yeah, that's what we've been saying. That's why we can't have them coming in here in this country. And the same goes for France and all these other European countries. And like France, they're shutting down social media, alternative media websites. They put people under house arrest for the climate summit. We don't want you protesters out here. And since we're under martial law, you can't protest. Sorry. However, I just saw in Russia yesterday actually, so maybe it was Russia yesterday, news channel. People in defiance of the government rules formed a handheld chain of protesters in defiance of the government telling them they can't under the martial law status they're under. And as I've already said, I will make the claim right now, take it to the bank, it's a done deal. There will be no terror attack in France when all of the world leaders are coming to the climate summit. Talk about the all-time time to strike Al-Qaeda, Taliban, ISIS, ISIL, IS, Islamic State, whatever. Was that regulators mount up? It's your perfect opportunity. Why did you waste it on the 13th of November when you could have saved it? Now, because everyone's on high alert now, you could have saved it, ISIS, till the climate summit. Boy, you guys dumb? Are you a bunch of artards? No. It's because the government sponsors terrorism. And this was a government-sponsored terror event. Like all, by the way, all terror events. And I'll be fair on that. And I'll say that probably 9 out of 10 are government-sponsored. The one remaining one is probably the real deal. Maybe. And that's a big maybe. Because chances are it's 10 out of 10 government-sponsored terror. How is it that every time they attack, more freedoms are lost under the name of security, give us more security, and then they attack again, we need more security, take away more freedoms, they attack again, we need more security, freedoms taken away, and more security. France has to go under martial law. 12 days of martial law isn't good enough. We need 3 months. Pass it, pass the House, pass the Senate. Yep, good deal. Oh, and by the way, while we're doing that in these next 3 months, we need to revamp the Constitution, says the French president. And he's already off with his new powers, banning, again, alternative media sites, shutting them completely down, and giving house arrests to protesters and arrested 24 so far. Not related to terror, but hold on. You said you need these extra powers to combat terrorism. France was just struck. This is why you did it. Why are you using these extraordinary powers on everyday citizens who have the right to protest? They're not even trying to be violent. We just want to protest. That's a little taste of what's going to be coming to all Western countries. My magic 8 ball says it'll be here soon. Take care.